Good evening. It is Tuesday, August 2nd. It is 6:45 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Law and Ordinance Committee. On my right is Ms. Lynn Snee. On my left is Mr. Bobby Phillips, and we are here to discuss a rezoning for outlots 119 and 120. Mr. Titterington, will you hold the discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the recommendation based on unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission on June 22nd. The applicant requested that outlots 119 and 120, which is abandoned railroad property located south of a portion of East Race Drive, be rezoned from R5 single-family residential to M2 light industrial district. I believe you have a map and a location of that particular parcel in that area. A couple of things that clarification. We did have a public hearing last night. There were some questions about that. Apologize. Let me pull this back up. The property was rezoned to R5 in March of 2011. That's when it became effective. Prior to that, it was manufacturing zoning for a long time. The property, if you had a chance to visit or if you've seen the aerials, is a heavily wooded area back there. It does provide screening of the backyards and the rear view of the residences along Race Drive. Actually, the property that is seeking rezoning the elevation is lower than the residential properties. And there is my understanding, a hill where the forested area, the treed area is, and so it creates a natural buffer, natural screening. From the application for rezoning, the applicant is Spectracam. They own the business along on Race Drive. Their stated intention in the application is additional parking and/or storage. The zoning code does require that if they do any building, any modifications whatsoever, because that would be a manufacturing zoning next to a residential, there is a buffering and a screening requirement. Buffering of at least 25 feet from the property line, as well as a screening of a certain height, and certainly one of the viable options would be to maintain the trees as part of that screening device, if you will. We are recommending that you recommend to council the rezoning. It is going to be discussed, or it will be on the agenda for third reading at your next council meeting, which will be August 15th. I believe that's, and we are not requesting emergency.
Okay. The property, it's not developed at all now?
That's correct.
If it were to be
you mean
developed,
a portion of the property that's seeking rezoning is
correct.
not developed.
You said it's lower. Is there a chance of flooding or anything like that if they put asphalt down?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
Certainly, though, if they are going to improve that and put impervious surface on there, that is part of our requirements, that they have to deal with any stormwater drainage.
Okay. Ms. Snee, do you have any questions?
So I'm just confirming, anything they would do to improve this property would require another approval process by the city, be it administrative?
It'd be administrative, unless they came back and wanted a planned development, which would be a separate rezoning. The rezoning goes through, then it becomes an administrative process and a review by the team of engineering, planning and zoning, fire.
Okay. And if I'm looking at this map correctly, there is a portion of this property that does, or is adjacent to another small property zoned M2 on Race Drive. Is that?
I'm calling it up right now. It's taking its time.
It's on the east end of this
Would that be Brown Bridge?
property.
You're talking about 1112? Mm-hmm. The blue one?
Yes.
That is actually, that is the current SpectraCam
That
location.
is Spectrum,
Yes.
okay. And so this would be their extension. So the M3 to the south,
M3, yes.
Okay.
That's general
Is-
industrial, right?
and that's where Jeep Street ends.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so I see how this falls between them. Okay. So this becomes another M2 buffer between the residential and that M3 larger parcel at
Correct.
the end of Jeep Street. Okay. I don't think I have any other except one other question. I believe it was mentioned last night as one of the concerns, and then maybe someone addressed it, that there were traffic concerns, but there was the potential for SpectraCam to be able to potentially reroute traffic if they had this property, or somehow allow for traffic not to impact Race Street as it does currently?
Yes, our understanding is, first of all, that the traffic impact is minimal. It is a tool and die shop. It's a very small operation, a relatively small operation. You know, first of all, they have not submitted any plans. They haven't purchased the property because they're waiting for the rezoning. And so nothing has been finalized. We've had no detailed discussions with them. That's my caveat. Certainly one thing that they may want to explore, if they were concerned about traffic and if we were concerned about traffic, is extending the current parking lot, which is just to the left of the blue, where SpectraCam is, extending that to the south and connecting to Jeep Street. That would require some engineering and probably some traffic engineering support. Again, that's not an idea that's been discussed with them, to my knowledge, in any level of detail. You know, they are talking about this as potentially additional parking, which would take any parking, or some of the parking anyway, that might be parked on the street, off of the street, we would hope, which would alleviate some concerns perhaps for the residents, or additional storage capacity, either as an extension of the building or a separate building on that property.
Okay. I think that's all I had.
Okay.
Mr. Phillips?
Just to clarify, the gray area to the left, which would be just west of the 1112, the blue shaded area, that is their parking lot. Is that correct? Is that what you're indicating?
That's what that is, yes.
And the railroad, or the 2.69 acres that we're talking about, is a raised bed. Is that correct? So,
It's actually lower than the properties to the north.
to the north?
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
I'm not aware that it's still raised as if it had tracks on it. It's been abandoned for, I believe, a long time.
Okay. Have we done any traffic counts, or do we know what their impact on the neighborhood is for either their employees or daily work, deliveries, that sort of thing?
No, we really haven't.
We haven't had any accidents or any issues that would cause alarm to anyone, and we've had no complaints?
Not to our knowledge at all.
Complaints in the past
No.
because of the business itself? That's all I have. Thank you.
Madam President, do you have any questions, or anyone in council have any questions, or Mrs. Oda? Mr. Twilliger? Just as a matter of full disclosure, I sit on the board for Habitat for Humanity, so I cannot vote on this. Mrs. Snee, anybody in the audience have any comments or questions?
I just want to clarify that I'm Steve Justice, counsel for Spectra County. The actual applicant for this is Habitat for Humanity. Mr. Chitterton was correct in every other respect that Habitat currently owns the property and SpectraCam wants to buy it, but needs to be able to rezone it back to what it was in 2011 so that it can put a parking lot or another structure on it. So that's the purchase agreement that would allow SpectraCam to buy the property hinges upon the rezoning.
Thank you.
Before you leave the mic, Mr. Justice, a couple of questions, if I may,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. A couple of gentlemen that came to last night's meeting, and you probably heard their comments about their prior offers to buy and that sort of thing. Has Habitat found any notes or any conversations that maybe would have led you to those gentlemen to approach them in a bidding situation with SpectraCam on this piece of property at this time versus the years ago that they apparently had these conversations with former EDs with Habitat?
I'm not aware of any conversations that those gentlemen have had with Habitat for Humanity. Mr. Horstman is here. He can clarify. I believe I mentioned this to him last night, and he was not aware of any prior discussions with those gentlemen regarding the purchase of this piece of property. So I don't know what to say in response to that. There are no current negotiations, nor any that I'm aware of, that have happened any time in the near future regarding this piece of property.
Or the recent past that you were aware of?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Just to speak to your comment.
Name and address, please.
Right. Bill Horstman. I'm the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity. There's no current negotiations or any sort of dialogue going on with any of the local residents. Back in 2008, which is 8 years ago, obviously, the board of directors of Habitat did try to see what we could do to sell some of those properties. We made a general solicitation to some of the neighbors, and I think that's probably where the referral came. The problem with that is the board saw it, though, and again, then nothing came of it. So from 2008 till now, there's been absolutely no dialogue. But the way the board approached it back then was it was going to try to sell off one little lot behind each one of those houses, which made absolutely no sense. So unless we could sell it all, we'd still end up with our same issue of not being able to really utilize that as residential zoning to put anything on there.
Right.
So just to clarify that there's no current negotiation, no current relationship with any of those gentlemen or any of those families or residents.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mrs. Snee?
I'm willing to move forward. I don't think the residential zoning provides anything feasible for that property at this time, especially since it wasn't going to work as Habitat intended. So I'm
forward.
fine with moving forward.
Mr. Phillips?
I'll concur with that, with the caveats that, taking into consideration the statements that the folks made at the last evening's council meeting, the public hearing. It's been my experience that property values do not go down. In fact, they are enhanced almost, I'm going to say 99.9% of my experience that these things are not affected by, it does not affect property values in a negative way unless there's some kind of hazardous material or situation going on that is uncovered. And I think this is a better use for the property than trying to piecemeal it off and Habitat sits on it forever and their asset, and they're not being able to get their money out of it to use for other purposes. So I support the application.
Okay. Mrs. Knight, let's move ahead. please.
Okay, will you be abstaining on the report?
Do I need to? Do I need to talk to Mr. Kerber and see?
Okay, we could do that, okay.
Okay. Anything else come before law and ordinance? We are adjourned.